Yeah, so obviously the big announcement that a lot of people are talking about as of recently being that the Worlds are going to be held in Australia and also at Hills RC. Walk me through the process when it comes to how that's been decided and that sort of side of things, probably to start off with Clive, and we'll work onto the track and that sort of side of things in a minute.
Yeah, sure. So IFMA run a rotation. They publish a rotation in their rulebook around where each of the events, each of the classes, the events is going to be for the block. There's 4 blocks. There's Raw, which is North America, so USA and Canada, effectively, and then there's EFRA, which is all of Europe, and places like the UK that aren't part of Europe but are part of Europe from a continent point of view. Then there's FEMCA, which is the Far East Model Car Association, which is where we sit. So anything within Oceania and Asia, and also a little bit of the Middle East as well, like Kuwait and stuff are actually in FEMCA. But yeah, and then there's the fourth, which is FAMAR, which is literally the 4th Model Car Association, and there's some A's in Latin or something or other in there as well, which is effectively South America. So all of the Latin countries, and also anywhere from Africa. So specifically for 1/10 EP, it's FEMCA's turn. It's been 25 years since it's been in Australia, so I did a little bit of lobbying, a little bit of inquiry around Australia. Just have we got the clubs? Have we got the facilities? Talk to races, talk to clubs. I think the first time I probably spoke to about it with Peter would have been the 2018 down at Keilorf.
Keilorf,
that's sound right? Yeah,
that is correct.
Yeah, and we sort of talked about, what have we got? What could we do? Are we good enough? Are we big enough? Could we get the attendance? Could we get the people? And then started lobbying around getting it to Australia. Got that over the line with FEMCA. Then we push on to IFMA, and then it's a case of, right, we can commit as a country. So we started talking to a few clubs, and then we asked the clubs to go through a bit of a process to sort of put their best foot forward. And that was in between the Worlds, which is the shirt that I'm wearing, and towards the end of last year, and Hills. Actually, what happened is the other clubs, that were keen, they decided that actually no, they didn't think they were quite ready, or they wanted to put their support behind a club that was putting in a lot of effort. And as a lot of people know, Peter went to the Worlds last year just to experience, to help with planning, to help understanding, and know ultimately what it's going to take to run the event. And we got all the green lights over the past couple of weeks, and put that announcement out on Friday. Was it Friday? Yeah, Friday.
Yep. Pete, actually, I want to get your experience from the actual World itself. So you weren't a driver there. You were just sort of taking the experience, seeing how everything runs. What was your overall experience from the Worlds? And knowing that a US Worlds is probably the biggest it'll get, the best it ever, you'll see. What was your takebacks from that event, and what do you think you can bring to an Australian event?
Okay, for the biggest thing for me that stood out from the Worlds over at Arizona was the facility. The facility was amazing. Presentation was next level. That's going to be hard to compete with. In terms of track, one thing I'm really excited about is we're going to be giving a track that's going to be unique to Americans and Europeans. So I'm hoping that we're to see a lot of people from both areas coming to an even playing field, and seeing some really exciting racing. I have a feeling that the Europeans felt they were a little bit hard done by is not the right word, but they were sort of on the back foot because it was a surface that, especially Rifkin, it's his home track. He's going to be hard to compete with. They've done mega laps around there. So coming to Australia, I'm really excited to see what sort of racing you get. I believe that we have Australia has a lot of really passionate RC people who are all going to come together to make this event something really, really special. While it's at Hills, it's not a Hills event. It's an Australian event, and we're encouraging all the RC racers from around Australia to come and get involved. Guys from Perth, Nick and that, he's already told me he's keen to come over and help out, just run the event. So I've been contacted over the last 2 days. I can't tell you by how many people who just want to come and be a part of it. So not even racers. They just want to come, help out, and make this like a memorable event, much like St. Ives. So when I was a a young racer back in '89. I got to enjoy the St. Ives event. I didn't get to race, but that always gave me the drive to want to be part of a world event in Australia again. So it's something really exciting, and I'm pumped, so pumped. Then this is going to be amazing.
No, it's epic as well. Yeah, go on, Clive.
I think for me, Mitch, having been to 2019, I went to Slovakia with yourself, as you know, and then going to the US. Yeah, Pete's right. Like the facility, Hobby Action, amazing place. You know, Huddy Arena, it's up there with. It's got to be the best facility in the world. But it needs the passion and the organisation of the helpers, the volunteers, in some cases employees, to make it happen. And I think what Pete, I'm speaking for him, but what he would have realised going there is, yeah, we can do this, right? And it was when I went to Slovakia, I went, well, yeah, we don't have a facility like Huddy, but we can put on an event like this, no dramas. And that was where the impetus came from going to that. It's like, right, okay, we can, yeah, let's do this, let's go for this in our round, and we can.
Yeah, I have no doubts. I think there would have been a couple of clubs within Australia that would have been capable of holding it, and I full support behind the Hills RC, committee and that sort of side of things when it comes down to it. What have we got in the ways of, say, we'll start off with the track surface and that sort of side of things. So the track surface is a fairly natural surface itself. It's a fairly medium grip with molasses treatment. Is that correct?
Yep, 100% correct. The good thing about the track is once we get it right with the molasses and we have bulk cars on there, there's a massive big black line that comes up, little dust. And we'll be doing things. One of the lessons we learned from the Worlds in Arizona is they had blowers. So every round, a marshal would blow part of their track. We'll be doing the same thing. So it'll be, I would say it's even going to be more consistent than Arizona. One thing you've felt over there is if they had a 10-minute break, the misters were still going. The next cars on the track struggled big time. Yep. I don't think we're going to see that in Australia. It'll be more consistent across the round, which I think will hopefully make people happier. The track, like I said, the surface is unique to Europe and America, but it is a hard pack track. It is what I call an old school track, and most of the guys who come on racing love it.
Yep. Watering, that sort of side of things. What is there anything required when it comes to that sort of side of things? When we have like a large event, say nationals style event, will there be like a watering schedule for that?
No, so there'll be no watering at all during the actual day itself. There might be some moisture put down after the event each night. So the track will have a little bit of moisture in it in the morning, which will dry out throughout the day. It just helps to stop it from breaking up over. For a day, it's fine. But if we're doing the Worlds, that's an 8-day event. Over the 8 days, if we're not putting any moisture in, it'll start breaking up to a certain degree with that many cars going over it. So each night it will be prepped again, but it will be kept fairly dry.
Okay, not a problem. And with that, I'm guessing you guys are actually holding the actual nationals, the 10-scale nationals, in a couple of months' time. You're holding the state titles before that. You're going to have a lot of prep coming into the Worlds. I'm sure that you'll have probably large events. You'll have the pre-Worlds, I'm guessing, next year. You'll, I guess, have a good understanding of what's going to happen during large events. Have you ran events virtually the same as what we're going to run the Worlds in the past, where there's just been no rain during the day? Is that pretty common for you guys?
Yep. So coming out of COVID, RC in Sydney went nuts. I think we had 18 months where we did not have a club day without 100 entries. So we had one Sunday where we had 130 entries for the day for a normal club day. There was nothing special. It was just a club day. So that was 14 races in a round. We got through that in a day. So well experienced in running in big days, big events. We've held state titles. We held the XRS series every year. Big events aren't a problem for us. We have heaps of members who are happy to step up and help out. So yeah, looking forward to holding an even bigger event. But yeah, as you said, we got in, I think it's April 15th, around that date, we've got the state titles coming up. Yep. October this year is nationals. In discussions about when obviously it's only just been announced on Friday, but in discussions about when the World's warm-up will be. There'll be some discussions as soon as that decision is made, then obviously that will be announced.
Yep.
The Worlds will most likely be held in early October 2025, but once again, that's to be confirmed. Yep. That's just where we're starting. So October in Sydney, that is the best time of the year. That's our lowest rainfall. It is most consistent temperatures. For example, it's when they had the Olympics in Sydney because the weather is best. So yeah, that's about it.
On rainfall, it probably one of my biggest concerns. And I'm glad you mentioned the fact that it's lowest rainfall and stuff. What is the sort of idea if we are looking to get rain? How can we sort of prevent the track from being flooded up and stuff?
So the track already has good drainage. We could have a downpour tonight and still race in the morning. That's fine. Obviously, with the Worlds, we will have covers that we can cover the track so we can protect it. Once again, it is an outdoor track. If Mother Nature doesn't want to help us, yeah, we can have a couple of days of rain. But that time, we've picked the best time of the year. Our track drains really well. So even if we get rain, we can get back on the track really quickly. We even have dry vacs where we actually get out on the dirt surface and we can dry vac the dirt. It's been done before many times.
Okay.
The rain doesn't scare me too much.
Okay. That's positive. That's real positive. So I think probably one of the biggest concerns for people traveling from overseas would be the fact that, they turn up and peas down with rain, 100 mils on the first day, and we don't run for 2 days being an outdoor event. But good to see that, or good to hear that you guys have it in place, that, the ability to be able to control as much as you can without it, say, just being raining every day anyway.
Obviously, we can't race if it's raining.
Yeah.
If it rains the day before, not a concern.
Yeah. It's awesome to hear. We'll flick back over to Clive for a bit as well. So I know, I'm pretty sure that you've probably had a lot of questions about this in the last
Already.
few months. Yeah. When it comes to qualifying for the actual Worlds, I want you to run me through how drivers qualify for a world titles. I know we've gone through it in the past. May as well
sure.
run through it again.
Yeah, so the RCRA rules, as they sit, and they won't, well, I can't see them being changed. I can't see the clubs voting on or proposing a change to this before this Worlds. The way they work is your best 4 events in a 2-year period. Effectively, that was put in place so that you could attend your home states, head to the nationals, and then you could get the maximum amount of points, or it's actually the minimum amount of points, but maximum amount of results for you for a Worlds. And it's only state titles and only the national championships that count. We're actually unique in that most countries only rank off of their nationals, or in European they only allow the Euros for Worlds qualification anyway. So we do get some extra spots being the host. I'm just going to the exact numbers there so I don't get that wrong, but this is a 150 place event, which should give some comfort as well when Pete's talking about 130 on a just on a club day, right? This is and that's where you are running practice qualifying and finals in the one day, which we don't do for a Worlds. But this will be a 150 place event. The standard is 15 places per block. The host block then gets a further 25 places, and that is traditionally given to the host nation. So we get our share of the 15, which those that have approached me in the past, like the default for that is 2 for Australia. Like there's 20 odd countries in FEMCA, but we get 2 out of that 15, and that's purely because of the amount of support that we've offered. And typically those are the spots that come back quickest if people from other member countries in the block aren't attending. The chance of there not being 15 from FEMCA wanting to come to an Aussie Worlds would be pretty light, you would have thought. So I would expect that those places will go. So we'll then get, as I said, we'll get 25 as the host block. There is then pool places. And these are given out on let's say a merit based allocation, and then there's IFMAR places. There's 15 of those, and they are attributed to past world champions. There has been junior spots given out specifically in the past, and the like. And so we will be looking at minimum, in my view, 40. Maybe up to 60 or 70 spots. The way that we'll run this is similar to what we did for Perth, which is basically find out who's interested, take deposits based on confidence. We don't want to be taking money off people when we just go, well, we know you're not you're not going to come, or you're not going to get a chance. So we're not going to take like 150 deposits. So that's just silly. But we'll make sure that we've got people who have paid their cash, who are committed and ready to go in place, so that we can always fill those spots. And if any other country says, look, we're not using any of our allocation, FAMAR, they don't travel much from South Africa and South America, so those ones come back into the pot as well. That we've got drivers that are just ready to fill the holes, right? That's how we've ended up with 18 or whatever it was at USA, and we ended up with more obviously in Slovakia than the FEMCA allocation, let alone the Australian allocation. But the way that the points work in RCRA, and I'm getting this off the top of my head, it's 1 point for winning an event at national level and half a point for TQ, right? And then the points rise from there. States, it's double that. If states have less than 10 people, it gets doubled again because it's not as competitive. If nationals don't have 16 in the heat, which would be, very unlikely, then the points get halved. But essentially, it's trying to get minimum amount of points, and the minimum you can end up with is in the order of 6, I think it was. So it'll be your 4 best results over a 2-year period, and that 2-year period is last year. So most people probably already have 2 events, maybe 3. Some have got 4 events already in the bank, and then it's whatever is raced this year. So go to your home states, go to your nationals. That's going to be your best chance. Yeah. Anyone who's done 4 events or more is automatically ranked again over someone who has 3, over someone who has 2, over someone who has 1. Yeah. Now, the total amount of ranking that up until the end of 2023, registered races around Australia that had done mod was in the order of about 60, and around about 40 that had done more than 2 events. So we're not talking a massive number of people. So, if you grabbed all of those races, like basically everyone who had done more than 2 events in the previous 4 years would get a go, potentially. And that's races that are committed to going to, multiple events in that period. I'm expecting it to rise. Already saw at the South Australian state titles some guys that have come out of the woodwork and decide to race mod. That's fantastic. Come and race the Premier Class, get yourself ready. Now those guys might do 2 or 3 events this year. They're giving that their red hot go and their best chance to be able to qualify. But I guess my advice would be, don't expect to have not done an event and just go, hey, I'm coming, because that ain't happening. And if you've only done 1 event this year, say your home states, and you hadn't done any last year, you're probably not going to have enough. So you want to be aiming for 2 or 3 events at the absolute minimum over the last 2 years. 4 will get you top 40, I would say. No matter,
Right. We got, I think we've only, have we done any events, state titles this year? Did you say South Australia's done theirs? That's right. South Australia last weekend. So that's the only state that has completed their state titles. We still have Queensland's coming up at Chargers. Vix is down at,
is it Knox?
Knox, I believe.
It is Knox, is it? Yeah.
Yep,
same as
I'm not sure. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is Knox.
Knox is what I'm thinking as well. I was going to say it, and I was like, oh, hang on, no, that's the Bash. But it could well be that it's the state titles there as well.
Yeah, I believe so. And Keilor has the Invitational coming up in a couple of weeks' time, but I don't believe they have the states this year.
And come along the hills. April, we've got the state titles. October, the nationals. So get used to our facility. That's where the worlds are. Come along, grab the points.
Yep.
Yeah. It's going to be awesome. And this nationals, I'm expecting to be huge.
Yep.
Yeah. I haven't heard anything from Tasmania. I think there's been a closure of a club down there, so I'm not sure there's going to be a state titles down there. There hasn't been one run in the NT forever. There will be one in WA, no doubt. And ACT, it's been a while since they've run a 1/10 dedicated, but it doesn't mean that they don't.
I've been hearing rumours.
And decide to. Yeah, that's it.
They literally just finished rebuilding their track to cope with 10-scale cars. So it's been an 8-scale track for many years. They just put a whole lot of work in to get 10-scale cars on. I really hope that they do, because a lot of people will go down and attend that event, because it's a great club, an awesome facility. So people should be.
Great dirt.
Yeah, it is. So we've done a lot of 8-scale racing down there. The place rocks. Yeah, unreal facility. So guys, Canberra guys, please run a state titles. People will turn up.
Yeah, shake the tree with Darren and see what can be organised. So
Yeah, I think good opportunities from a couple of clubs around Australia. I know Northern Territory has a club in Alice Springs. It'd be an opportunity for them if they wanted to run a 10 scale event to run a 10 scale state titles. You know, it's out there at least. It's a potential. Any Northern Territory. I'm not sure how many 10 scale Northern Territory drivers we have, to be perfectly honest, but it'd be a good opportunity for any of them if they wanted to have a run, potentially qualify for the Worlds, and they could host a state titles.
And if it works for you from a travel point of view, and you're thinking I could go to a smaller event and sneak in a good result, then there's nothing to stop that from happening either, right?
Yep, exactly right. I think a lot of drivers probably do that for the Western Australia titles, to be perfectly honest. And
Tasmania has been one
fine.
that's been used in the past.
Yep, by myself included. Okay, back over to the track, the facility, that sort of side of things. Pete, do you have, I guess, a working plan of any upgrades you're looking to make to the actual facility itself at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm hoping that at the end of this week, we have 200 tons of new soil coming in. So this was all planned even prior to knowing about Friday. So hopefully between 100 and 200 tons, but closer to 200 tons of new soil. The track will be getting rebuilt starting on Friday. So there'll be a new track for the state titles. Now we know the Worlds are coming up, there'll be a lot more effort. The track will be a little bit more special. But the facility is awesome to begin with. So our council is very supportive. About 3 or 4 years ago, they put 200 grand into building us a new driver's stand with disabled ramp. So we've got essentially 2 40-foot shipping containers sitting on top of each other that have been heavily modified to suit our situation. Lots of concrete paths. There's a massive area for pits, and it's a real Australian track set in a bush setting. If you're not careful, a kookaburra comes and steals sausage out of your hand while you're having it. There's wallabies jumping around. So it's a perfect place for the Worlds. A bit like at St. Ives, actually. It was in a bush setting too. So a really Australian event. It's going to make it pretty special. We haven't got lighting at the moment, but the council contacted me about 2 weeks ago, saying that they're looking to put lighting in for our facility. That's going to be amazing. That will transform us. So that was always one concern with the Worlds, is just lighting. If running in October, we have got more hours of light, but as you saw in Arizona, things go wrong, days blow out. If we have lighting, that sort of eases those concerns. So that will be a big one. But yeah, other than that, the track, the facility is already amazing. So yeah, it's looking good.
Awesome. And then tell me about the actual location itself. What do you have in the way of hotels around the location, around the track, that sort of things?
Okay, so our track is located in northern Sydney. It's about a no traffic, 35-minute drive from the airport. So if you're flying internationally, you fly to Sydney Airport, you could drive, say in 40 minutes to the track. So located in Castle Hill, Sydney. There's we've put out an information pack actually for our state titles, which shows a lot of hotels and stuff. But there's plenty of accommodation located within sort of 3 or 4 Ks of the track. The closest probably being about 2 Ks. And accessible. There's actually, even if you wanted to come by rail to Castle Hill, there's transport pretty much to within 500 meters of the track. So it's very accessible, easy to get around, food, shops, accommodation, everything's where you need it.
Right. I think another sort of concern I think a couple of drivers have had, it's one sort of concern that I've had, but I'm pretty sure you guys have already thought it out, resolved it and stuff. How's it gonna work with the pitting and sort of parking situation? Because I know you guys have quite a small car park. Explain that to us, because I know you guys have already planned a lot of this stuff out.
Yeah. So when you say a small car park, it's probably, I actually got to measure it, but it's probably about 100 meters by 40 meters. So you say small, but that's fairly substantial. So that will become our pit area. Obviously, there's a lot of planning to go in, but we'll be setting up marquees. There'll probably be 2 massive marquees for the drivers. We'll have enough room for, obviously we've got tyres we have to look after. There's officials we need. There'll be going to be food trucks. So there's plenty of room for the pits. We'll probably end up potentially with a shuttle service. So we'll have an area where people can drive in, drop off the gear. It might be about 400 or 500 meters away that they have to park. And potentially we just shuttle those guys back. Not really a big problem. Easily done. I think they did the same thing in China. I didn't go to China, but I was told that they use shuttles to get guys to the track.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to drive to the pit area, drop your gear off, and then either walk back or we get a shuttle.
Right. No, it's good to hear as well. I know you guys are planned it out really well already, and a lot more planning obviously to come. A lot of man hours and stuff that goes into these events, like just a nationals that a lot of people don't see. So a world titles is just a whole nother ball game. You know, how strong of a committee do you have? You know, who's your main committee, and how many on top of that do you have to sort of support this sort of side of event?
All right, so I've been president of the club now for about 7 years. Ben Cribben, who is also section head of RCRA for EP Off-Road, is our current secretary. So we've got about 7 people in our committee at the moment, all who are highly motivated, been around for a long time, want to get involved. Our members, currently Ari Barkler, everyone knows, a member of our club. He's already helping out massively with organising of the Worlds. The Donnellys, the Ments. I'm going to leave someone out who thinks they're important, sorry. But they're people that everyone has heard of, who knows. They're all part of our club. Jeff Primmer from Maitland, he's already going to be heavily involved in organising. So he's been around forever. Probably one of the most knowledgeable guys in running events in Australia. His son Craig actually came second at the Worlds in South Africa some time ago, and he was his pit man. So he's been around for a long time. He came to me. Well, I went to him and said, "Mate, we're interested in running the Worlds." He's like, "Pete, I absolutely want to be part of this." So we've got guys with massive knowledge. They've been around forever. I've been in the sport since about 1986. So there's a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of passion. And our member base of 120 people or something. Everyone is super keen. But like I said, I've been getting phone calls from Bateman's Bay, originally from Chargers. So Chargers was in the running for this. They actually dropped out and they contacted us and said, "Guys, we're not doing it, but we want to come and help." We get along guys from Keylor. Well, there's just everyone wants to come and be part of this. So, and a lot of the older guys who have been in the sport for a long time, they've been contacting me and go, "Pete, I don't want to race, but I want to come and help, and I want to be part of this amazing event." So it's really exciting.
Yeah. Definitely a massive event for, you know, Australian racing. As Clive said before, I think it was 21, 25 years.
Yeah, so 1989.
89.
Back at St. Ives. Yeah.
Yeah. So long.
I remember
long
it like it was yesterday watching Masami take out both titles.
All right, I think Clive's on his way back in a second as well. So yeah, actually, you went to the St. Ives World Titles, and talk us through how that has progressed to where we are now. Actually, so what are the main differences, being from say St. Ives to last year's Worlds in America? What do you see as big changes?
Obviously technology is insane, but the support from around the world for that St. Ives event was massive. I think it was the second World Titles. I think the first one may have been actually 80. I think there was 2. I think there was. I'm gonna get it wrong, but I know 89. So it was either the second or third Worlds that had ever been run. It was highly supported. I was about a 13 or 14-year-old kid, standing on the sidelines, and I went, "Wow, I want to be part of this." And to think that I'm going to, you know, it's at my club. I'm going to major part in running it. I am so excited. It makes me emotional because at that age, it just was so big for me. And so I couldn't be more excited. And whatever effort needs to be done, I'm there putting it in, making sure it all goes as planned.
There we go. Matt Roberts has jumped on 85 and 87 leading up to the 89 Worlds.
Yeah.
So,
I think one was in England. Anyway, I can't remember. I was way too young back then. But one thing I just want to say, massive thank you to Clive. this has only happened because of Clive. He puts in, once again, he's in the background. No one really sees what he does. His passion, the amount of work that he puts into this is enormous. The only reason we have the Worlds in Australia is because of Clive. He's sort of moving up as into IFMA and doing things, and it's only a positive for the sport as a whole. Well, it's great for Australia. It's actually great for the sport all around the world. You saw the work that he did when we were in Arizona, the support he gives to the team. As he said, we were only meant to have 2 drivers. I think we had 16 drivers over there. So yeah, when you see Clive, give him a pat on the back and thank him for making this happen. Yeah, his passion and motivation is unparalleled.
Yeah. A couple of off-topic questions, I'd say, in a way. How do you, like, being a president of a club hosting the World Tires, how do you think we can sort of advance this event, especially this event, to somewhat of a mainstream audience to try and bring more people into the hobby itself within Australia? I know it's a difficult question and probably something that you weren't expecting, but how do you think we can represent, I guess, the hobby in general for the wider audience?
All we can do is advertise. So already in Castle Hill, so it's a highly populated area. Where we are is situated in a recreational park that has high foot traffic. Lots of people, a lot of sporting's going on there. So something like this, just advertising that it's on. I guarantee that through the whole event, you're going to find it hard to find a spot on the fence to watch, because there's going to be that many people coming to watch this. So even when we're in Arizona, there wasn't that many people from outside the track who actually came in. I was actually surprised at how few spectators there were. All the spectators were actually the drivers or pit crews, but people from the general public didn't seem to even know about it. In Australia, it would be different. One, we have a lot of races from the area. If they're not racing now, they have, and they're all going to come. If we can advertise it, mate, the place is going to be packed. The atmosphere there is going to be unparalleled. It's going to be next level.
Yeah.
So hopefully those sort of things, people seeing it, seeing the hype. After that, some little kid, Johnny, walking by, wants to buy an RC car and start racing.
Yeah. And that actually was one thing I noticed throughout the US World as well. And I'm glad you bring that up as well. Being indoor worlds, and it was very similar to Hoodie Arena, there was just no knowledge that it was there other than for drivers, races themselves. I think it would be a great opportunity, the fact that it's being held in an outdoor location, that we will have that opportunity to advertise it to the, outgoing public that, come and watch, come and have a look at what happens. This is where you could be, this is what you could do, enjoy the hobby. So yeah, I think it is a great opportunity for the hobby in general. So hopefully.
Even as you said, that's what got me in at St. Ives. I was just a local racer. I'd only been competing for a couple of years at a club level. And when I got to see what actually existed out there, I was blown away. And it's obviously made an impact on my life. I've been in the sport now for a long time and, doing what we're doing. So I'm sure there'll be some other kid who turns up to Castle Hill who has the same experience I did.
Yeah. No, I have no doubt, and I'm really looking forward to
it. One thing I was just listening to you guys about how to advertise and how do we get people interested in this. I think I said this the last time that I was on your stream, and that is don't be embarrassed about doing RC, right? Don't not tell your mates. Don't, when you're at work, don't think, don't want to actually talk about what I did in the weekend. Be proud of it, right? Yeah, some people think it's a bit nerdy hobby. Some are like, oh, it's only toy cars or whatever else. Nah, just be really proud of it. I've started to really be open about it with with my workmates, with my other friends and the like. And the response is actually really good, and people will get really interested. Whether it's resulted in people actually going and racing or whatever else, that's less the point. It's just about understanding and the knowledge. And I always talk about the fact that when people start talking about funding for other sports and this sort of stuff, well, we get zero, right? And so when there's a newspaper article saying there should be more funding for netball or more funding for women's soccer, I'm like, well, how about you give us $1 first, right? So, and not that those other sports don't need more cash, but it's not known. Like I remember a conversation where someone said, "What, people actually race?" I'm like, yeah. So I've brought my cars into work, like show and tell style, and showing other people what they are. Let other people have a go in the office, all sorts of stuff. But so be proud that you race RC. Don't hide behind it. share stuff on social media. Don't just have a separate account versus your own personal account or whatever else. Like, be proud of the fact that you race RC and you've got a really cool hobby, and it's a hobby that's really accessible and it is a lot of fun. And and being amongst mates and that sort of stuff is and traveling around to these events, that's half the fun of it, right? I don't do it because I don't race because I'm good at racing. I do it because I like hanging out with mates and going away and then just doing something that's a bit of fun. So yeah, be proud. That's my thing.
Do you actually want to bring up anything else about the facility, the track, or anything else, Pete?
We need to update some of our photos on our face and our now I've just had a brain fade on our website.
Yeah.
They're all a bit old. Haven't been updated for a long time. A lot of them have been put there for history. So we'll start putting some new photos up. Hopefully we'll start making some promotional videos. So as you know, the firsts and seconds are massive into this. They're at our track all the time, and we're going to start talking to those guys. I'm sure we can put something together to promote what we have. It's actually a unique surface. We always have a nice grass infield. We'll put up some photos actually. I have a lot of pride in my grass. So it's a unique, very unique track in the bush. I think a lot of the guys coming from overseas are going to be blown away by what we actually have and what we get to enjoy every week.
Yeah. I know the No Name podcast talked about this a fair bit as well, being the first outdoor world championships in China 2015.
Yep. 15 or 15, yeah, 15, 16, I think it was. Yeah.
Roughly about that. And a lot of people sort of saying it could be potentially the last outdoor worlds. I have my doubts on that, but nonetheless, it'd probably be the last one for a while. I wouldn't be surprised if European worlds will go back indoors. I think a lot of worlds seem to be going to that indoor sort of tracks nowadays.
I think our tracks are a bit bigger than what we had at the World, so it's about 40 meters by 30 meters. I can't remember. I can't even remember what it was over at Arizona, but it was significantly smaller. I know when I came back and stood in our driver's stand, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is a bit more space."
Yeah. So 2013 Chico, USA, that was outdoors, and then 2015 was Utabi, and obviously that was on Astro, and everyone was all
indoors
up in arms about it. And then 2017 was China. So it's time I went back on dirt. It's time I went back outside, right?
Yeah. Because apparently we race off road, right?
Yeah, with jumps and like ripples and the track wears out and exactly. And I mean tires obviously, that's the huge thing, going to standardized tires. We'll see what the push is for standard rims. That could be interesting. Whether that gains any more traction this year is a discussion. Pre-glued and all that sort of stuff is always being talked about. I mean, hell, 89, Masami won by, prototyping, cutting up his own tires and gluing them back together and, some other voodoo with things. So, yeah, that's definitely obviously something that's changed a lot since 89. But, we might see some more change with tires. There was obviously issues with the number of the slicks that were available. So that will probably be a big change for our event. Will be formally going to limiting the number of sets. So to avoid the kerfuffle that occurred, Tiregate, as I heard some people talk about, which was, I think, more of a drama for people that were away from the event, just banging on keyboards, as opposed to those that were at the event. And then the limiting the number of tires, it wasn't a bad thing for the racing.
I assure you, we will not have a tire issue.
Yeah.
The tire issue will not happen here.
No,
we will have more than enough tires. I promise.
Yeah, but we could still see number limits. It might be something that gets that gains traction again. Yeah.
Right.
But it will be a pin tire too. So something like a whole shot, the Raw Speed Super Mini or a Sprinter from JC. It'll be a tire like that.
Yeah, might need to get stuck in the pro line and make sure they keep making it, right? So
Absolutely.
something equivalent.
Actually, Clive, whilst we're talking about tire limits potential and that sort of side of things, do you think a tire limit would be based on an event per event basis of being a tire limit, or do you think it would be an outright limit that the track would have to stick to?
Well, the rules can change. Like IFMA will just update its rules, right? So it might be a case that it decides for this event it's this many tires, and it might not change because like at the moment in the rules, the weights are all in like freedom units, as some people refer to them as, in imperial, right? So because that's just what the Americans used to weighing. So that'll change back to metric.
We lost Clive.
So yeah, the rules can change on an event per event basis. Which is good to know because I know that some events probably would need more tires. You know, if we went on the carpet, realistically, a quicker tire is going to be, you know, a new tire. They'd have to limit it so that way people aren't running on slicks just about by the end of the titles, and that sort of side of things.
So one good thing we have is we're 18 months out from the event, right? The poor guys, when they had it at Arizona, they had 7 months to prepare. So they found that they had 7 months to prepare.
Yeah,
that's not a lot of time to prepare for a Worlds.
No.
Larry did an awesome job, but it's all those little things that's potentially what led to him having an issue with tires. They just were thrown in the deep end. I remember speaking to Larry, and he said we asked if there was any information from previous Worlds that we can, and he said no one had any information. So Larry, to his credit, I spoke to him before I left, knowing that we were a good chance of getting the Worlds, and said, you know, can we be in touch when I get back? And he said, absolutely, mate. Any information you want or need, I'm here to help you. So that's thank you to Larry. I haven't actually hit him up yet, but I will be in contact with him soon. And he said he's more than happy to help us in any way with knowledge. So that's awesome.
Yeah, no, they were awesome crew to work with, and
Yeah.
you could see the frustration on their face when they were having the tire dramas as well. We're trying to work through it the best of their way they possibly could.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the tire dramas sort of stem from the idea that they probably expected a lot of guys probably to bring their own practice tires to start off with, whereas I think almost every driver ended up purchasing their own practice tires, I would say.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. On top of that, they probably didn't expect, well, they were expecting drivers probably to know that the tire wear wasn't going to be as high as what everyone was expecting. A lot of people were told before the event 1 to 2 runs maximum on a set of tires before you were virtually going down to foams. It turned out you could virtually run a set of tires with pretty much, you know, a week on the same track, and it, you know, you wouldn't be running out of rubber. You might be losing a little bit of time, but it'd be minimal. And once we got into, you know, purchasing tires and stuff, we had drivers purchasing like 25 sets, you know, one every single run they're going to be on the track. And
it's also traditionally at every Worlds, you have a new set of tires for every run. That's been happening since I can remember. So that's just people's mentality and what they intended to do.
Yeah. And people buying enough and then gluing enough for options as well. So there was those that wanted to glue the inserts to the rim, and so they were like buying 6 sets that they'd glue to the insert to the rim, 6 sets that they would do not glued, another 6 sets with, you know, a different offset front tire, front rim, and it's just like, what are you guys doing? But and you know, we're not talking top 10 people that were doing this, right? So and from memory, like Locke Donnelly, his heater run where he like set like a crazy time, I think it was on like 3rd run tires or something like that. So
I personally, and you know, this is a lot off topic from what we're sort of talking about, but when it comes back to tires, nonetheless, I was finding 3rd to 4th run was best, which was complete opposite to what you were hearing from a lot of the top drivers. Even, you know, a couple of top drivers were saying 1st to 2nd run was your best, but nonetheless, far off topic.
It would be very different with a pin on dirt. Yes.
Sorry. It will be good and interesting to sort of see if we end up having those rules come through.
The advantage is the tire that we choose for our track will be a tire that every run runs on our track every week. So we'll over-order by thousands, knowing that they will sell in the future. So that's not a concern. But it is a pin tire. Yeah, so it is going to be a pin tire. So it will have wear compared to the slick. I know the slick was hard to see, but like you said, 3 or 4 runs. I agreed from what I saw. The guys on the 3rd run was just as quick as their first, if not quicker. I actually thought the 1st run wasn't as good. Pin tire is slightly different. So, but anyway, let's not get into that yet. I don't want to open that can of worms just yet.
No.
There's 18 months to work these things out. So there's a lot of discussions to have with Clive, and we'll put forward a committee that we start working together on and make all these decisions informed. We're not just throwing anything out there. Everything will be discussed very thoroughly to make sure we're doing the best things for the racer.
Yep.
You can imagine like the logic numbers would be, say maybe like 5 or 7, right? So 7 means that you have to run one of your mains or one of your qualies on a used tire, and if you had 5, you'd have to run probably one of both, right? So, and then that brings into the play of, well, do I do half my qualies on new and half on used, so that I'm actually used to running on used tires? So it won't be like really tight restriction of like 3 sets where you got to run them down to the canvas or anything like that. It'd be set up in such a way that the most you'd have to run a set of tires would be twice if forced. And that then just brings in that element of tire management.
Yeah. It would be good to see that come through, and I think it would alleviate any potential issues in the future when it comes to Tiregate that we had over in the US.
Well, and it's freaking expensive too, right? And especially when people are traveling to then land in the country and drop $1,400 or something silly on tires for the 2 events or whatever, it hurts. It's a lot of cash.
Yeah, if you're saying that with our dollar, if you're a European or American, you're pretty happy coming here right now, right?
Yeah.
Our dollar is rubbish. It's a cheap holiday for the guys overseas.
Yeah, it's such a perfect time for them to come over. So,
absolutely. And they don't need to tip.
Yep, don't need a tip. Taxes included. All these bonuses. So, but yeah.